What is going on, everybody? It's KB. Before the episode starts, make sure you go check out StreamerSZN's brand new theme music. That's right. We have full-time, brand new theme music thanks to the newest homie and newest member of the music side of Underground Sports Philadelphia homies. That is Mobley. Stay Volk. His new single is out now. It is linked in the description on YouTube, and you'll be hearing it on audio until we can figure out if we can play it on video on StreamerSZN episodes from here on out. That's our new theme music. Stay Volk. Go download it now wherever you get your music, and go check out the music video on YouTube. But now, let's get into the episode of StreamerSZN.
Philadelphia, baby, you're gonna love it. Best sports fans in the world. Actually, the worst, but that's what makes them the best.
Boy, we're so back. What is going on, fellow streamers? Welcome into another edition of StreamerSZN, the exclusive streaming platform TV movie podcast on the Underground Sports Philadelphia podcast network. It's KB and Christian coming at you. I've long debated about whether or not we should say what episode it is or not, or just continue with another edition. We've never said the episode number on the podcast per se, ever since we recategorized everything back in the day. But as I was getting us caught up and getting all of our episodes up onto streaming, Christian, because I did fall behind quite a bit and am slowly but surely getting all of our episodes up. I was going through and I was like typing in like mini notes in each episode so that I knew what to put in the show notes for each one. I was like, something's not adding up. So my dumb, tired brain was mislabeling the episodes in StreamYard. Shout out, no free shout outs. Because we do pay for StreamYard. But I mislabeled some episode numbers and got all out of whack and had to go in, recategorize everything and figure out where I messed up. Everything is fixed now. Almost every episode is caught up, and yeah, that was not a fun time.
We should just start every so often saying random episode numbers just to drive people crazy.
Because I do know when I'm going through everything, because there's been a couple. There was a 2-week stretch where Get in the Hole missed some episodes because Steve was on vacation and Ben was in tournaments, so they didn't have an episode that week. And this show and that show started at about the same time because these are our two pandemic baby podcasts. So they're pretty close in episode number. And I was just like, what is going on? Why am I missing something? And I went back. I labeled like 3 episodes, episode 155, and I completely skipped 156. And then I went from 155 to 157. And then after 157, I went to 156. So I was all out of whack. But everything's caught up, and we are almost fully back up to speed across the board. So keep on subscribing. The numbies are still rolling in, so we appreciate the support that everyone is still listening to the pod, still downloading the show, and we are almost back to your regularly scheduled programming, as we have like 2 more episodes to get up, not including this one, to be fully all the way back. So we're doing the damn thing. But that is what Garrett Stubbs' walk-up song has told everyone. That's life. We've got a fun episode for you before we get into it.
Also, it is what Bryson Stott's walk-up song will be, because we'll be
okay. Before we get into everything, make sure you guys are following us on the socials at StreamerSZN. We're going to soon be quite a bit more active on there. Christian's going to put his wizard touches on our social channels, so be ready for the fun shit posting content of television and movies across StreamerSZN socials at StreamerSZN and StreamerSZN pod on TikTok. You can follow me at KBICZL311 on Twitter and Christian at thewiz_PHI. Subscribe to the podcast feed on Apple, Spotify. Leave those 5-star ratings and reviews. It does go a long way for helping the show continue to grow. Let's see where we can improve. And, of course, subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel. youtube.com/@undergroundsportsphiladelphia. That is where you get full video episodes of this show. You get full video episodes of every show on our network, clips, shorts, live streams, original video content. We are currently at 807 subscribers on the main channel. Goal is to get to 900 before the end of June. We're about halfway there. Let's make that happen. Shout out to the anniversary of Bryce Harper's That's a Clown Question Bro video, because that got about 10,000 views on the shorts feed. So that brought us some new subscribers as well. But keep on subscribing and leave a comment down below with what you're watching, what you want us to watch. And obviously this coming weekend, getting added to the docket. I'm figuring out all of the details of who I will be podcasting with to discuss it. But House of the Dragon Season 2 will be on the podcast for sure. Your new HBO Sunday night viewing entertainment that will be joining the docket along with the Acolyte. But I'm like about 85% of the way of locking down who will be joining me for those episodes. And like I said, subscribe to the YouTube channel. And of course, get your merch from our awesome merch partners at PHI Apparel Company. From shirts and hoodies and everything in between, they are the official merch partners of StreamerSZN and Underground Sports Philadelphia. If you want to stand out in the crowd, whether you're going to the movie theater, Netflix and chilling with your significant other, hanging out with your family for a family movie or show night, watching The Acolyte, do it looking your best. Stand out in the crowd. Go to phiapparel.co and use code underground for 10% off your order. Most effective and direct way to support everything we're doing here at Underground Sports Philadelphia. So go get your merch, phiapparel.co, code underground, 10% off your order. Christian, the Acolyte episode 3 is what we are tackling first. No slash title this week. It's just titled Destiny. It was Koganada running the show on this one. He was your director, and your two writers were Jasmine Flournoy and Eileen Shim. We were talking a little bit pre-show, and you said this episode got a little too much Koganada treatment to it. Your overall takeaways before we dive into the breakdown of episode 3 of The Acolyte, which everybody on the record last week, Christian said, so far, through the first 2 episodes, he was really liking the show. Did this episode derail any of that, or are you still overall in on this show?
I'm still overall in on this show, but for me, my interest in Star Wars lies in the politics and the scheming, which we had in the first 2, and we had the conspiracy, and we had the Sith. And then we kind of just detoured back for character origins, which, like, I get why we did it, but also why can't we just sprinkle this throughout the show? That's my mood generally with episodes like this, because unless it's truly stupendous, like, was it the 3rd episode of The Last of Us with Nick Offerman?
It was either the 3rd or the 4th. I'll double check that.
But I feel like that is the example of, like, when a pseudo origin works because it comes back in on itself by the end of it. And this kind of just is like a message in a bottle is not the right word, but it's
Great
more
song,
of a yep. But it's more so kind of just stuck in here, and then we're gonna go back on the main timeline. It's like, guys, come on now, and I say it's very Koganada-y because he does these more contemplative, slow-ish episodes about self. That's his bit in terms of his 2 films so far. So I'm happy that Koganada got to do this. I'm not necessarily saying I'm in love with it, though.
Yeah, it was episode 3 for The Last of Us. Nailed it. Yeah, I as a Star Wars fan, I enjoyed this, and I've said this a ton, and Dylan has said this a ton when he was on shows. This new era of Star Wars TV, and not saying this one in particular doesn't really fall into that, but it does elevate to a degree where like the Mandalorian, Ahsoka, especially, and these new shows. If you have watched the animated Clone Wars show that was on Cartoon Network for a while, and now everything is on Disney Plus, um, it elevates your overall just like world building knowledge of what's going on to a degree, and it's not necessary viewing. Like it's not something that's like, oh, I have to watch this to understand what's going on here. It just gives you a heightened sense of everything going on. And when I was watching Mando season 1, I had not watched the Clone Wars yet, and Mando season 2, I had not watched the Clone Wars yet. But after we finished Mando season 2, I was like in that fix. I needed more Star Wars, and I binged Clone Wars all the way through. And when I was like looking back on everything I had watched in the first 2 seasons of Mandalorian, then when season 3 rolled around, I was like, "Oh, I understand a lot more because there's some things in there that pertain to what we're watching now." I'm not saying that that's the case for the Acolyte because it's a completely different era in Star Wars too. This is well before everything that happens in the Clone Wars, but um the director Leslie Headland, who did the first 2 episodes, she originally pitched this show in 2018 as an Asajj Ventress show, who is a character from Clone Wars. She's a very cool fucking bitchin' villain, like badass. And this episode in particular, you can feel the elements of what that original pitch was to a degree. So if you know Asajj Ventress's character and like how she carries herself from the Clone Wars, there's a lot that ties into this. And then obviously like people were spewing out the witches of Dathomir. They're not exactly the witches of Dathomir, but there's a lot of similarities. And Eric Voss in his breakdown did a great comparison where it's just two different factions that believe in the same type of thing, just a different belief system. It's like, different religions and stuff like that. I saw a lot of hate being directed toward this episode, but I do want to shout out my boy Brian at Brian Knows Lax and Neil Barrett on the Tweet Machine from Lacrosse Twitter. They also cross over into Star Wars Twitter. They were talking about this episode and how they enjoyed it, and having watched it today as we record this and sitting down and not really like taking in what the hate was. I, as a Star Wars fan, really enjoyed this episode and saw why they did what they did with the character backgrounds and everything coming off of the 2-episode premiere last week. But I can also see where somebody in Christian's shoes, who is not a full-fledged Star Wars fan, he takes in bits and pieces of the Star Wars galaxy, if you will. I can see why this episode doesn't resonate as hard with you as some other people, one way or the other. I was also looking at the Google reviews for the show, Christian. Star Wars fans are the most toxic motherfuckers ever. Have you
Yeah, like
seen the most recent score average
have
for the show?
have you seen the Rotten Tomato score?
I did see that the critic.
Just
I saw the
just
critic consensus. I didn't see the fan.
just look at the Rotten Tomato score for the season.
Let me take a look. Because the Google reviews is a 1.7 stars out of 5, which is just completely ridiculous. Let's see.
It's it I looked at it and went, "Come on now, guys, really?"
So I'm assuming the 85% is
That's the critics.
critics. Let's see. What are we doing?
Tell
19%? What are we talking about?
I would just like to say though, I guess one other thing that just kind of grinds me wrong about this episode is how they end the last episode by teasing Wookiee Jedi, and then we go into a flashback episode. Which the guys like the sixth wheel, and I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, it's some weird episode placement at minimum, I would say. But overall, I just wasn't in love with this week's episode.
And I think in the next 1 to 2 episodes, we'll get that Wookiee Jedi fight scene that we saw in the trailers and everything. Because there was a lot of stuff that happened in this episode that kind of ties into what we saw last week, and I think we'll see going forward. But Christian, I'm going to move my light back, but I'm going to give you the floor to give the people the spoiler warning of the week.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your weekly spoiler warning. If you would please pause this podcast if you haven't listened to or watched this week's episode already, go and watch it and come back quickly to listen to our podcast. That'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Boom. So here it is, The Acolyte, episode 3, titled Destiny. So we start off 16 years earlier with Osha and May. They live with an all-female coven of witches on Brendok, the witches of Brendok. The coven's leader, Mother Anastasia, claims the twins were without a father, and they were carried by another witch, Mother Coral, who very much looks like Darth Maul and his brother Savage Opress from the Clone Wars. That was interesting to me, just to pause the breakdown there, is that we'll get to it, but like the Jedi coming in and like playing dumb that, oh, we thought this place was uninhabited. And then they have reason to believe that there are children there. Number one, you fucking liars. Number two, the Jedi know that these kids were created out of something far more like mystical and, overarching than your traditional child. So that's also interesting that they're basically coven kids. Coven kids. It sounds like a Saturday morning cartoon. Like they're not quote unquote normal. They are like fabricated and made up children.
Coven Kids sounds like something made in something made in a gigantic easy bake oven. Coven Kids. Coven Kids baking set, everyone.
From the people who brought you the Cabbage Patch Kids,
We'll bring
Coven
you
Kids.
Coven Kids. Come get this big, beautiful cauldron.
Coven Kids exclusively at Hot Topic. But yeah, I found that bit interesting that these two twins were just like formulated and made from witch magic. Anastasia teaches the children that the Force, which they call the Thread, it's like Twitter versus Threads. Is misused by the Jedi. They undergo a ceremony to be inducted into the Coven, which May is excited for, but Osha is not. And before Osha is inducted, the ceremony is interrupted by a group of Jedi. We have Indara, Kelnaka, Torben, and Sol. They express concern that the witches are training children and claim the right to test the twins for their suitability to become Jedi. Now, this is kind of our first glimpse at like, oh, the Jedi suck. Like they basically feel like they have the right to come in and detach any child from their upbringing and force them to learn the ways of the Force, which is like, oh, so we're kidnapping now.
Space police, kidnappers.
Where's Mando when you need him?
What'll they think of next?
Kids do the darndest things. So they have to test the twins for their suitability to become Jedi. Anastasia asks the children to purposefully fail the test. May does, but Osha chooses to pass the test and tells Anastasia that she wishes to become a Jedi. Angry that her sister wants to leave her, May starts a fire. Sol helps Osha get to safety, but they see May seemingly die and find the rest of the Coven dead as well. The Jedi take Osha to Coruscant, and Sol promises to train her as his Padawan. And on Brendok, May is shown to have survived and is looking for her sister. And that is kind of where we got that flashback moment in episode 1 where OSHA is seeing the fire and you hear the distant screams and everything. That is, the events there. May is a psychopath. Like, what an absolute sicko menace to be like, yeah, you don't want to be a witch? I'm going to fucking burn you alive. What an absolute
Psycho shit.
sicko.
Absolute psycho
Psycho
shit.
killer. Kiss say.
Ooh. Are you a Talking Heads fan?
Somewhat. I like their music.
Okay. We need to add Stop Making Sense to our watch list.
Got it.
Okay.
Um,
Filing that one away.
we threw out his name. But she's a psycho, and like we thought that she was evil last week when we saw her all grown up. Like that shit runs deep. Now I don't know if it's also very funny that the book that OSHA has that May takes and then starts the fire. She was drawing all of that before the ceremony. So it's like, how did she know that Jedi existed? She's drawing a lightsaber. Was she getting talked to through the Force from somebody? Was it Soul? Was it Yoda? Because Yoda's obviously around at this time because he's an old bastard. Love Yoda. But like, who is like giving her this information? That's an interesting point there. And then just the simple fact that like May was, from that point of view too, like, did May get overtaken by somebody from the dark side of the Force and is being influenced to kill her sister? Like that shit was wild. Might be the most dastardly child we've seen since
Anakin,
who also didn't have a father. Daddy issues run rampant in the galaxy. Overall, I enjoyed this episode a lot. I thought there was a lot of good elements to it. The backstory on the twins was interesting, and I think it'll help propel the story forward now that everyone has that knowledge in the back of their heads as they're watching the next 5 episodes. The witches element was fun. If you're a Clone Wars fan, I'm sure you enjoyed it a lot more than the casual Star Wars fan. But we also kind of got our first peek, like I mentioned, like into the Jedi kind of feeling that they're entitled and having this authority over anybody. And we see Mother Anna saying like, we're not part of the Republic, like fuck off. It was an interesting kind of dynamic to see the Jedi like in that sense, and it's going to be interesting to see how they continue to paint that picture of like, hey, the Jedi aren't always right.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how the evolution, or should I say the de-evolution of the Jedi goes.
Yeah. So Christian, I have the write-ups here, I believe. Oh no, it's still the same ones from just the overall premiere. I mean, next week will be the mid-season episode, which will be fun. I'm sure we'll get a lot more context of where we're going to go from here and figuring more out about the twins, about the Jedi. The next 2 episodes are directed by Alex Garcia Lopez. I will pull up a backlog on their directorial credits. So let's see. Alex Garcia Lopez. Oh boy. I don't know if Christian's ready for this one. So here is his IMDb write-ups. Alex Garcia Lopez is known for, let's see, Fear the Walking Dead. He did 1 episode in 2017. 1 episode of the Exorcist TV series in 2017. He worked on 1 episode of Luke Cage in 2018. He worked on 2 episodes of Cloak and Dagger. He also worked on 2 episodes of Daredevil. Worked on 1 episode of The Punisher. Worked on 1 episode of The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina in 2019. He worked on 2 episodes of The Witcher in 2019. And his most recent directorial credit in his previous is he worked on 5 episodes of Cowboy Bebop. It's like the horse meme. It's the majestic horse drawing, and then it's just like the derp horse. Now I'm not gonna say it's all his fault with Cowboy Bebop.
Yeah,
It's a crew, but that is his most recent work. And then obviously these 2 episodes of The Acolyte, and then he also has a TV series in production titled 100 Years of Solitude. That is also in his upcoming work there. So we'll see how that all plays out over the next 2 episodes before we get to what I feel like is going to be both of our favorite episode of the season, episode 6, directed by Hanelle M. Culpepper, who is best known for her work on the following projects: 90210, Parenthood, Criminal Minds, Revenge, Grimm, and Star Trek Discovery. That just tells. She's also worked on like Hawaii Five-0. She's worked on Sleepy Hollow, Gotham, Empire. That just tells me like that shit's gonna get fucking back to like the criminal type shit, which is exciting. And then episode 7 is Kogonada again, and then Hanelle Culpepper is your director for the finale.
Should we give our grades?
Let's dish out the grades, Christian. I have started to keep track of the grades for you. So you gave on the Star Wars scale for episode 1 an 8.8, and the overall general scale a 7.9. And then you gave episode 2 an 8, and then on the general scale you gave it a 7.2. So for episode 3, what are we dishing out?
So on the Star Wars scale, I'm giving it a 7. On a normal scale, I'm giving it like a 6.4.
All right. I enjoyed this episode, not as much as the first 2, but I saw the elements and what they were trying to do with it. So I'm not going to go as high as I did last week. I think last week I gave both in the 8s. I'm going to give this one 7.4, which 7.4 plus Christian's averaged out scores takes us to 7-1 rounded up for this week's episode. Like I said, it was definitely an episode that if you know the Clone Wars and certain storylines from the Clone Wars, you'll appreciate and understand this episode. Not more, but you'll appreciate it for what it is. And you'll understand some elements more. But if you're not, it's just another lore episode in the Star Wars galaxy. And overall, still a very enjoyable show. Excited to see where it heads to next week. But moving right along, Christian, from the Acolyte to the streaming business news, and it is brought to you by our pals over at Tomahawk Shades, the best small batch eyewear in the game. From sunglasses to blue light glasses to prescription lenses, they've got you covered with the best eyewear at an affordable price and a fraction of the price of the big eyewear companies. Why are you going to spend hundreds upon hundreds of dollars on eyewear that has the ability to get lost, broken, stolen, whatever it may be, and then you're out, $500, $600, $700 when you can go to tomahawkshades.com, get a pair of sunglasses that feel, look, and have the vibe of those big eyewear companies for a fraction of the price. It's better quality. They are truly the best. They've been rocking with us for years now. So when you go to tomahawkshades.com or you download the Tomahawk Shades app in the App Store or Google Play Store, Use code USP at checkout for 25% off your order from our pals at Tomahawk Shades. That's code USP at tomahawkshades.com or in the Tomahawk Shades app for 25% off your order. Christian, I've started seeing commercials for the newly bundled Xfinity streaming platform big price decrease package of what is it, Netflix, Peacock, and Apple TV.
But they're all with ads.
But
I
they're all
think.
with ads. We've talked about, I think we talked about it a little bit last week too, where it's like if we're paying for a streaming service, yeah, we talked about it when we saw that Max's like subscription price was going up again, where it's like we're paying for this service, like that in and of itself should reduce or completely remove the ads from the viewing experience on the streaming platform. I get these companies have bills to pay and everything, but it is very funny how like that was supposed to be the model is, oh, you're paying for the streaming platform, the subscription price is paying for you to remove ads and not have to watch commercials on regular cable TV, and here we are, the ads are back.
Yeah, there's some streaming services that I would also just say are absolutely abhorrent when it comes to ads. Like, all due respect to all the Hulu shows, but holy my brother in Christ, the amount of ads, the repeating of those ads over and over again. It's like, guys, please, I'm begging you.
Yeah. Like
For like it shouldn't take me like 45 minutes to watch a half-hour show. I'm sorry.
and
No.
I think what you could do if you're going to have these like lesser payment tiers that are going to include ads, I think one cable television station that does it the best, obviously you're still going to have commercials because it's cable, but I think ABC, when you're watching a show on, prime time on ABC, that 8 o'clock to 10 o'clock hour, especially in that 8 to 9 hour, they're showing ads for Disney Plus shows. Like I've seen ads for the Acolyte, and it's little pop-up ads that show up in the bottom lower third, quick, easy. It's like 10 seconds, and then it's gone. There's your ad. You're gonna catch people's attention from it because it's something popping up on your screen, and you're gonna be like, "What is that?" And then you're going to convert some of those people to go and watch whatever you're trying to advertise. I just don't understand the commitment to, like you said, like having to watch 45 minutes worth of TV to watch a 30-minute show because we got to stuff in 15 minutes of commercials and unskippable ads onto a streaming platform that was originally pitched that, oh, we're streaming, we're not going to have ads, we're not going to have commercials. That's the beauty of streaming. And that's all kind of just gone by the wayside now.
Yeah. It's all about the ads. It's all
True.
about the ads, how much ads, how often ads. And it's not as fun to watch.
It does take away from the viewing experience 110%. Like, especially like
if done wrong, it takes away
oh yeah.
from the viewing experience. If not, you kind of just feel like you're watching it on cable a little bit. But like even then, like I was watching a movie with ads. That was like it's like an hour and a half runtime, and there was like 4 or 5 commercial breaks, each lasting about 45 to a minute and a half, which like perfect. Like that's fine. I have no complaints, even though I will full admit they were in somewhat wonky spots. I'm fully fine with that being my ad thing for an hour and a half.
Right.
Like, if I'm giving you an hour and a half of my time, sure, you can throw 5-minute-and-a-half ad breaks in there and I won't complain. But if you're
Yeah,
giving me 5 to 8 2-minute ad breaks in an hour and a half, I go, okay, we've got a bit of a problem here because you're basically adding 8% of the runtime to 15% of the runtime.
right. And it's like the price of streaming platforms is getting so exorbitant that we've joked about it and we've seen it all the time. Like people are just going to go back to cable because now all these things are getting packaged in to cable to bring people back to cable. History just repeats itself. We're going to see more people back with cable, and then it's going to be like, oh, we lost control of the plot and we lost control of the streaming era, and now we have to reconfigure the model all over again and do the same old song and dance. And if things just go back, hell, we'll have Redbox and Netflix outside of grocery stores again. You also sent me something before we started recording that's interesting with sports and streaming. Well, it could pertain to it. The Big 12,
Are you ready for the All-State Big 12?
the Bucky's Big 12. Speaking of ads, so the Big 12 is looking to sell just naming rights to the conference, which we all know at the end of the day is going to play into streaming rights, into TV rights, broadcast rights, and it's going to be fascinating to see how this plays out and then eventually how it plays out in the SEC, because we all know the SEC effectively runs college football. And when you have Alabama and Georgia and all these big schools in the SEC, that's where your big money comes from. It's going to be wild to see how this all plays out and how it ultimately affects TV rights deals and streaming deals for all of these college football conferences, because at the end of the day, we all know college football is almost its
Money.
own entity at this point as opposed to all the other college sports.
I mean, football and basketball are their own entities over everything else.
I wonder if a streaming platform decides to try to buy in to a conference and then gets the exclusive
I mean,
streaming rights.
here's the thing. Uh, who owns the SEC rights? Is it like NBC, right?
It is ABC, ESPN, and SEC Network that began in 2024.
Struck. But so theoretically, and even though this is stupid to say because they would be 90% of the time already, it's streaming on ESPN Plus, or it's like who like, and again, Fox holds the Big Ten rights, right?
I
Fox Big
want to
Ten
say
Saturday.
yes.
But like if it was like CBS or NBC, those would be on Peacock. So I think there's some nuance to be had because we don't know exactly the language in these current broadcast deals. But for the people who currently have streamers, and this is also a question of because ESPN does all these games on ESPN Plus, you're asking, can other streaming services bid on it with these current deals?
Yeah, that's going to be the interesting part. And like, it's funny that you said CBS and NBC there, because Big Ten is CBS, NBC, and Fox since 2022. The other big thing, like from this too, that we've seen with just TV Red, not pertaining to college football per se, kind of does since TNT got the rights to college football, is just how everything with Charles Barkley and inside the NBA is going to play out.
Terrible.
And if Charles decides to say, "Hey, I'm going to buy the naming rights to the show and put it on my own network and then sell the rights to everything," which I think would be the smart move for Charles Barkley to do, because then you make even more money for yourself and then you own the rights to easily the biggest sports like desk show ever, because that's the type of show that I think wherever it goes, people will just turn it on.
Yeah. Shall we hop on the news and notes?
Let's head to it, but let us know in the comment section your thoughts on everything going on with streaming business and how you feel about subscription prices and all that kind of stuff. Want to hear from the people, but let's get to everybody's favorite segment. It is the Streaming Platform Multiverse News and Notes, brought to you by our pals over at Kenwood Beer, the official beer partner of Underground Sports Philadelphia. It's a refreshing light beer, just 4.1% ABV, only 120 calories, and just 8 grams of carbs. You guys can go to kenwoodbeer.com. Link is in the description. And use the Kenny Finder to see who's got Kenwood Beer on tap in the Philadelphia, New Jersey, Delaware, Pittsburgh, and Maryland areas. You can also check out the Kenny storefront for awesome pint glasses and apparel. Must be 21 or older to do so. And of course, please drink responsibly. Christian, speaking of streaming and TV rights and all that good stuff, via Variety, The Rock's production company, $7, has signed a first look deal with Disney. It includes developing multiple projects that he will potentially star in.
Congrats to The Rock, but are they going to be Skyscraper, or are they going to be stuff like Smashing Machine? Shrug. But speaking of Disney, the gift that's a train wreck of a movie that doesn't stop giving, Blade needs to find a new director. Blade is going to be on its third director, and they're already on like their third writing pair. Is this movie ever going to come out, Kyle? Is Mahershala Ali still going to be Blade, which is going to make the Eternals end credits scene even funnier?
I can't wait for them to go in on Disney Plus and dub over to whoever they recast.
Imagine.
That's such a bummer. We were so pumped when Blade initially got announced, and it has been nothing but a shitstorm since, and that sucks.
Yep.
4 days before its release, House of the Dragon's been renewed for season 3, which we all saw coming, but it's official. Looking here, I feel really old. The Incredible Hulk released 16 years ago today.
Oof.
Rebecca Ferguson is being eyed to star in the Peaky Blinders movie.
I'm mentally trying to imagine her doing that accent, and it hurts my head.
Yeah.
But hey, I'm here for it.
This is a very funny comparison, and I'm not going to be able to unsee it as I'm watching House of the Dragon. House of the Dragon showrunner Ryan Condal says that Vhagar, who's the giant fucking dragon that we saw last season, is the LeBron James of dragons. She makes the whole team better. Vhagar is a big threat. Breaking news, Vhagar starring in Space Jam 3.
So one for us cinema sickos that doesn't need to exist. Robert Pattinson and Smile director Parker Finn are going to remake Possession, which is a film that should never be remade because it's a very strange, fun, and weird film. But if there's any male actor who feels like they could fit for it, it is Robert Pattinson.
DC confirms the Watchmen animated show or anime project is now 2 films. Part 1 releases in 2024, part 2 releases in 2025. CG Films, it's a leap forward for our DC cinematic animation.
I said, Splitting Watchmen into 2 parts. Probably smart. But going from animated series to movie, I say.
Also to follow up, Blade is also now on its 6th writer to work on the project.
Again, how?
Pixar is releasing a new original film in theaters March 6, 2026. We have 2 original films coming out, and then Toy Story 5, and then some more original. To which Pixar also confirmed, Christian, they're doing the Lord's work, and they listen to the podcast. They confirmed that they have no intention to do live action versions of their movies. Thank fucking
Good.
Christ. We did not need live action Toy Story. We got a new Deadpool and Wolverine poster that's inspired by Beauty and the Beast. It's absolutely incredible. I'm pissed. It's more so we can't see and scoop on things easier now. Fucking Elon just tearing down Twitter even more. Likes are now private. That should be an option. It should not just be a general consensus thing. That shit pissed me off. Ridley Scott had 8 cameras rolling at a time while filming Gladiator 2.
Oh,
Quote,
Christ.
you got to know where to fucking put them.
Well, okay.
Put that on a quote card.
Hold on. I have multiple thoughts on this. Because that so Ridley Scott's late brother Tony is notorious for just having a billion cameras running and getting every angle possible. You know the movie Unstoppable, Kyle?
Yes.
Denzel Chris Pine on a train. There's shots that have a like a helicopter in them. And he's filming using that helicopter. But it's just also like, it's a news helicopter. It's in the frame. It's fine. It's like, so it definitely feels like he stole from stuff he stole from his late brother there with 8 cameras for Gladiator.
Cue the Action News theme song. Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer releases on Prime Video on June 18th. And I'm excited about this. New member of the cast for Peacemaker Season 2, Tim Meadows. He has been cast as Argus agent Langston Fleury. Tim Meadows in Peacemaker is just going to be fucking great.
Did you see the picture of Frank Grillo?
No.
Homie is working out to play Peacemaker's dad. Holy brother. One piece of news I do want to touch on. Sony's buying Alamo Drafthouse.
I saw that.
Which is interesting.
Yeah.
I don't quite know how it's going to play out, but it's interesting.
It's like the first studio to own a movie theater in like 75 years or something.
Own a chain.
Yeah.
Because like I'm pretty sure Netflix and other studios own like some like small theaters out in like LA and New York to use as like screening stuff. But this is owning an entire chain, which is something that got outlawed in the 40s. But apparently, according to a Google according to a Google search, 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 the U.S. government sunsetted those laws starting in 2020, and it sunsetted in 2022.
Okay.
Because, quote, the studios would not be able to maintain the same level of monopoly they once had, which I agree with. And them buying Alamo, which is a smaller chain and stuff, like, sure. But if we get like Disney buying AMC or Regal, I'm sounding the alarm bells.
Ugh.
that's that's when I sound. That's when we sound the alarm bells, and the
Yeah.
and the FTC comes out.
I'm kind of in the similar vein here. I want to try and see if I can pull the video up. Did you see Kevin Smith's quote about movie theaters in that clip that was making the rounds?
I've watched a lot of Kevin Smith clips, so remind me of the specific one.
He was kind of talking about like the theater experience and why theaters are kind of in the state that they are. I'm gonna pull it up and
I mean,
embed it into the
Tarantino had a great quote, which is 100% true in terms of talking about the price of movies. Which, did you see the news that Regal is doing $1 movies during the summer?
amazing.
Which I'm just like, your move, AMC.
But yeah, I watched this and I was like, that's pretty interesting, especially coming from Kevin Smith. I want to get this to embed. So I don't know if this is from his podcast in particular or if he was just a guest on this podcast, but I will find out where it's from. But he basically said like film exhibitions in the toilet was the opening of the quote. And if this one's to download, that would be great.
Yeah, but there's
We'll embed it in post.
Yeah, Kevin Smith and Quentin Tarantino have had a lot of great quotes recently, so I suggest everyone digs up their podcast appearances, because those two guys truly care about film and truly care about the life of film, and anything they say should be taken seriously.
Is he your white whale to get on this show?
Who? QT?
Kevin Smith.
I mean, no, my white whale would be my favorite French Canadian, but I mean, in terms of New Jersey filmmakers, because I'm not fully counting Spielberg, shrug. It's either him or now Palme d'Or winner Sean Baker, who's a really fun, interesting artist.
Yeah, I finally got the clip to go, so I'll play it for everybody here. So yeah, this is Kevin Smith talking about the state of movie theaters.
Because film exhibitions in the toilet. Because
but I like the theater. I like to go.
Sure, but you know what? Looking around here, are you the type of individual that also likes vinyl? Maybe
I
not.
have vinyl.
Some people are like, hey man, vinyl, I swear by it and shit. Cinema is going to become vinyl, which is like, it's never going away. But you keep looking at what's happening to multiplexes around the country. They're closing their 300-seat venues, their 200-seat venues, and they're putting in those couch chairs with the feet that go up and stuff like that. So suddenly
they'll deliver your food to you.
They'll bring food right to you, but you're going from like the mass experience of like 250 to 300 people in a theater to like 50 will sell this theater out because the ticket price has gone up, and hopefully we're going to sell you food and booze as well. That model seems completely fucking untenable. And I think that's why AMC, big companies like that, they're sweating and they're going like this up and down. The business still hasn't completely righted itself post-pandemic. Yes, Barbenheimer was great for things and whatnot, but there's not a Barbenheimer every week.
No.
And I don't think some of those cats are ever coming back for the theatrical experience. Or maybe they'll come back once in a blue moon for something big. I think it's going to probably start being like Broadway. Broadway used to be everything, right? And then now it's like $150, $200 a ticket for the rarefied few who love it. But that's not mass consumption at this point.
Okay, so I have multiple thoughts on that. And now this is an argument I had with my sister, and she yelled at me for it and told me to apologize, and I said no. Modern moviegoers are spoiled pricks. Because, listen, while I love my comfortable reclining seats to watch a movie, the fact that that's become a prerequisite for some people is fucking absurd. Like, I'm sorry. If you really want to see a movie, that shouldn't matter.
Mhm.
If you want to see a movie with people, what should matter more is the time, not the place. In terms of the dine-in theaters, that's a cool little fad, but like there's so I've relatively just over the bridge. There's one in the Fashion District of Philly, and that's like the only one within 25 miles of me, 30 miles of me, which I mean that's fun. That's fundamentally fine. Alamo Draft House has built itself as that. That's fine. That's like a niche thing. But I do fundamentally think there's a mix of issues when it comes to theaters in terms of A, the prices, which I mean, we've seen this on like I've worked at a theater on National Cinema Day where it's like $3 tickets, all $3 tickets or something. That we as a staff want to kill ourselves. We hate it. If the ticket prices for like non IMAX stuff, like it now this is gonna be a scary thing to say, but the words dynamic pricing, which I'm gonna be honest, as someone who deals with selling tickets, they're kind of already doing that. Spoiler, that they're kind of already doing dynamic pricing because if you come to like a big Marvel movie on the first 2 weeks, it's one price, but if you come like in the third or fourth week, it's like $1 cheaper. Do you know why? Because they get more people to come in that way. And so you're dealing with the question of price. I mean, you can argue about concessions being too much, but that's how the theaters make their money. So I'm not about to go on a thing about how concessions should be cheaper because while yes they could be a little cheaper, you can't do the same thing to concessions that you can do to ticket prices and expect this to still function as a industry. And then I also just think that the way people market movies and um the way people market movies to get people interested is flawed at this point because we're getting like 3.5 minute trailers for this. We have trailers that basically tell you everything that's going to go on in the movie. It's like, what are we doing here? And they're still relying on people to show up in theaters to see these trailers to then in turn come and see them. So it's a question of companies needing to shift to a greater digital presence to market these films to then get more people in seats, but you have to motivate them, which is why stuff like Dune is doing great because it's you are seeing this on the biggest screen possible and it has that in incentive. So it's kind of like I both agree and disagree with what Kevin Smith says, and I agree to a degree with what Denis Villeneuve says in terms of we need to eventize films more. We need to give people a reason to go to the theater. Which I'm not saying let's do Taylor Swift concert movies every 6 months, but what I'm saying is we need to market better. We need to incentivize better, and the entire ecosystem just needs to be fixed.
Yeah, especially when you have movies coming out and then people just kind of have this thing in their brain like, oh, in 2 weeks it'll be out on streaming.
Yes, which that became a byproduct of a byproduct of COVID, but also the great thing with A24 movies is you don't know when they're going to end up on Max. You don't know exactly when they're going to end up on PVOD, which, by the way, PVOD is quietly good for business to a certain degree, but also it's just they kind of ruined it by going from a 90-day window to a 60-day window to a 45-day. It's now what basically amounts up to 2 weeks at this point. Like I've had senior citizens at my job call and ask about movies that left a month and a half ago. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but it's not 1990 anymore. Like we don't have movies for 4 months here. Like you've got to come in the first 2 weeks, first week to especially with smaller movies to be guaranteed to see it, because otherwise, I don't know what to tell you.
Christian, we got our first show on the docket for the fall. We've got a release month for the widely anticipated the Penguin series from the Batman universe. Premieres on Max in September.
I'm excited.
I'm very pumped for that. I also didn't realize that I was pretty much just as old as this movie. The aforementioned Steven Spielberg's Jurassic Park released 31 years ago this week.
And when did Schindler's List drop? Because it was the same year, by the way.
Yeah. Schindler's List was... It says February 4th, 1994. But let's see, 93 in film. December 15th. So I'm a little bit older than Schindler's List.
Schindler's List Christmas episode, Kyle?
I mean, it's a great movie for like what it is. Like, it's extremely well done. Yeah, the year highest grossing films of 1993. This is great. My birth year. Number 10, The Pelican Brief. Number 9, Philadelphia. Very fitting for me. Number 8, Sleepless in Seattle. Number 7, Cliffhanger. Number 6, Indecent Proposal. Number 5 is The Firm. Number 4 is Schindler's List. Number 3 is The Fugitive. Number 2 is Mrs. Doubtfire. And number 1 is Jurassic Park.
So, no, I need the global box office for my birthday. Well, for my birth year.
Which is...
So, okay, so number 1, The Phantom Menace. Number 2, The Sixth Sense. Number 3, Toy Story 2. Number 4, The Matrix. Number 5, Tarzan. Number 6, American Beauty. Number 7, Runaway Bride? What's this? A Julia Roberts Richard Gere film. Okay. Number 8.
Runaway Bride's a banger.
Number 8, Stuart Little. Number 9, The Green Mile. Number
I saw
10,
Stuart Little in theaters.
Christ. Number 10, Blair Witch. What a group. That's a really that out outside of the Matrix and Blair Witch and Green Mile, that's a very apt group in terms of like Star Wars horror-ish Bruce Willis M Night film, Pixar, Disney, Julia Roberts rom-com, weird, supremely weird Sam Mendes film that shouldn't have won Best Picture, Tom Hanks movie. Like it all kind of checks out for what movies were in 1999.
Yeah. That does check out.
Anything else we need to touch on?
I have a couple more here. This was just great. A man named Optimus Prime has been arrested in Texas for car theft.
Huh?
It just writes itself. Happy 55th birthday to Peter Dinklage.
He's that old? Damn.
Yeah. And then I know we touched on this when it dropped, but we do have, once again, for the people, because it does premiere this weekend and it'll be on the docket, your schedule for House of the Dragon Season 2 returning this Sunday, June 16th, June 23rd, June 30th. July 7th is your mid-season episode. July 14th, July 21st, July 28th, and then your finale is August 4th. So Dem Dragon's going to be taking us through pretty much the entire heart of the summer.
Boys, dragons, and bears. Oh my.
So let us know in the YouTube comment section if you're Team Black or Team Green as well. But I think that's all we've got here. Make sure you guys are following us on the socials at StreamerSZN, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok is StreamerSZN Pod, Threads. You can follow Christian on Twitter at @thewiz_PHI. You can follow me at KBIZZL311. Subscribe to the podcast feed on Apple, Spotify. Leave those 5-star ratings and reviews. Again, let us know if you're Team Green or Team Black in the YouTube comment section and in the podcast reviews, and subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel, youtube.com/@Underground Sports Philadelphia. Let's get to 900 subscribers before the end of June. We're at 807. Smash the like button, ring the bell icon, leave a comment down below. Get your merch from our awesome merch partners at PHI Apparel Company. It's phiapparel.co. Use code Underground for 10% off your order. This has been another edition of StreamerSZN, the exclusive streaming platform TV and movie podcast on the Underground Sports Philadelphia Podcast Network. For Christian, I'm KB. We are not going to go set our twins on fire, but until next time, we'll see you